Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Isle of Man in the UK. This is John and Mike's MMA Corner.
Hey, thank you for joining us, Alex. Now Mike isn't here right now because he is in Vegas. So he's having a shit time in Vegas watching some amateur fighters on this. Apparently, some fights on this weekend. He doesn't know about the proper fights that are going on down at Phoenix Fight Night. You got yourself take on Rafael Dias, and also you got Jake Boswick as well. So there's a couple of big British MMA guys going down to throw their hands. Now you're fighting Rafael. I think this fight's going under the radar a little bit in the sense of it's actually possibly one of probably your biggest fights coming up to your career, because he is such an established fighter in his experience and his knowledge. I just don't think people are really recognising how big this fight is.
I think, looking at it now, it's big because of his experience, but a lot of people don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's had, I think he's had 35, 40 MMA fights, but most of them have been based in Florida or Brazil, or when he fought in the WEC, not a lot of people who actually like MMA know what the WEC is or was.
Yeah.
They just know that blue cage, that place with the blue gloves where Aldo fought. I think that's what everyone's assumption the WEC is, even though it was like the pinnacle for featherweight, bantamweight, and flyweight fighters back then.
Yeah, you're right. You're spot on. That was basically if you wanted to see the best of the best, that's where you went. That was the only place. Like Brad Pickett, even Brad Pickett went there because it was where you went to see the best guys in the world of those weight classes, and that's why the UFC snapped it up, because they saw the potential that was in there.
I think it was always owned by Zuffa. It was the same company.
Oh, Zuffa has their fingers in a lot of pies, do they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same company.
And you even got to see the gorgeous man that is Brian Stan, Mr. President, fight there as well.
Yeah, there was I think Carlos Condit,
yeah,
Chael Sonnen,
yeah,
fought in WEC
they
as well.
did, yeah, they did.
All they started to do was start to merge the weight classes. So the WEC got rid of the middleweight division; those guys went to the UFC. Got rid of the welterweight division; those best guys went to the UFC. And then it wasn't till the last WEC event that was it Faber Aldo the last event?
No, the last one was Benson Henderson against Anthony Pettis was the last fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
They took a lot of the branding off.
Yes.
And then just that was the last one. Then they merged it completely with the UFC.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you've got your opponent, he's kind of been, like you say, he's fought around the world in different organisations, he's got so much experience and so much knowledge. He trains with, high-end guys. It really is probably your toughest test coming up, if you think about it. If I look at it, if I look at your record, I think he's probably, probably the best you've came up against.
I would, he poses different problems to some of the others. I don't necessarily think he's not as dangerous a striker as Lobov, for example. But he can still strike. He trains with good people.
Yeah.
He's probably the most dangerous grappler who I've fought.
Yes.
Maybe not the most dangerous or accomplished wrestler. I believe Narimani was a better wrestler.
Yeah, Narimani's probably the better wrestler out of all the guys. Yeah, he was. That was a good fight, though. Fucking hell, that was a good fight.
Yeah.
But
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching it. I wasn't getting punched, but with Diaz, what I like about it is, his grappling is very high end when it comes to submission wrestling, jiu-jitsu. But you've been traveling around, not just UK wise. You went off again. You went overseas again to do more, more training.
Yeah, I try to get away as much as I can. I'm actually quite blessed to have one of my best friends lives in Singapore and trains at Evolve out there. so I get to go visit him, not just to see my friend, but also I spend a lot of time training with, for me, arguably the best grappler in MMA in Shinya Aoki. I spent almost 2 weeks training with him every day. You don't get more high level than that. I don't think, especially not in terms of using jiu-jitsu in a fight.
Yes.
I don't think there's anybody.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the difference, isn't it? It's getting the guys that can use grappling in MMA, because there are obviously coaches out there who are specialised in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, for example. It could be excellent in gi only, but when it comes to grappling and getting punched in the face at the same time, it is a different skill set you need.
Yeah, it's completely different, but it should be the same thing. Jiu-jitsu was invented for combat in my eyes, and obviously there's the sport of jiu-jitsu now, and people can specialise and be elite at that. But then I also think that MMA grappling has moved on so much since the days where straight jiu-jitsu was so dominant that maybe now good jiu-jitsu guys for MMA, which I believe I am, have a MMA style of grappling. So it's not purely they've both evolved in different routes, if that makes sense.
It does.
And I think,
yeah, it does, mate. And do you know what? It's great that you go to do that, because obviously when you come back to the UK, because you're not just a competitor, you coach as well. You obviously then can just feed these guys more and more great knowledge, and you must be able to see it, because obviously when you're doing it yourself, when you're rolling yourself with them and you're learning these new techniques, you can't see it because you're not looking from a third person. But then I suppose when you watch your guys do it, you can see it a lot more of it, and it must be quite exciting, that part of it.
It is. Probably the most I managed to learn was not through specific being shown a technique, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I learned a lot through osmosis, through just the pressure I would feel, the shape of the body, like to control somebody, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then all I do to teach my students is I just relay that pressure and make them have that pressure. So I'm constantly, while I'm showing simple stuff, going over the details myself over and over, and just a lot of what I'm learning now is just making things tighter.
Yeah, sharpening up the tools.
And
absolutely.
I think most of it was that the quality of training partners that evolved was ridiculous. Like my two training partners I spent most of my time with were, one of them was a two-time no-gi world champion, the other was Shinya. It was really good. I learned a lot from practice and from going live, from making mistakes. From making the wrong decision, or even from making the right decision and then thinking, right, I did that. That was really good. Let's try and find that position again when we go live. But it was good. It was a really enjoyable trip. I look forward to going back again. Obviously, Eddie lives out there, and Eddie was like my role model when I first started fighting professional MMA, really. As much as he coached, as he was more just a training partner that knew a lot more and understood a lot more about fighting. And he kind of showed us how to teach myself almost.
Yeah.
So it's nice being around him and around that environment as well. As much as I didn't have to teach for those 2 weeks, I still missed it a little bit, because I feel like I kind of constantly, by watching, like you're saying, watching the guys who are coach, I have some high level students, by watching what they're doing, the mistakes they're making, I'm constantly learning and making adjustments from that as well, which I think helps. It's like learning when I'm not training.
Yeah, that's the thing. I found that sometimes that's why when guys get an injury, I always say, if someone gets an injury, don't not go to training, go and watch, and you can see so much more than you realise. You'll notice a lot more.
Yeah.
You'll start to say, do you know what, I can maybe get my underhook here, or maybe if I sidestep here when he's throwing them combinations, etc. And there's a little things that you don't have time to think about when you're going live, because it's so quick, fast paced. You're trying to think a couple of steps ahead. But when you're watching it and you relax, you don't have to worry about anyone tapping you out. You can see a lot more. And I assume then that as well, with going across and training, you bring the level up of the guys that you're coaching. So as well, that brings up their game, which helps your game as well.
Yeah, oh, without a doubt. Especially I'm all of a sudden posing new problems that they've got to think about, and they've got to work counters to. Then when they work the counters, I work the counters to the counters, and which is constantly getting better and getting better. Especially like the team environment we've got. We don't have a set coach, someone who's telling them what to do and when to do it. We're very much trained together, test, retest. One of them will come up with something, like I'll do a pass or a specific movement, and like Ryan, one of my training partners, he'll want to counter that, and he'll try and find a way to counter that. And then I'll deal with his counter, and then I'll have to pass again. I'll try and find a different way. It creates a very a progressive environment, so we're all constantly getting better.
Yeah, because I always say that to people. I say you should always question everything, even if it doesn't matter who's the coach or who's teaching it. Always question it, because they might not know or might have seen the gap that maybe you're bringing up. You might say, is there not another way to do this? And even if you do it and you fail, at least you know. At least you've done it and you've found out.
For me, like a lot of good teaching will come with an explanation of why. Everything to some extent should. If you have the why, there can be several hows.
Yes.
Yes. And then but if you're only shown how all the time, it's a good thing. It helps. Some people need that. But I'm like a why man when I coach them. Do this because of this. Do this. This is why I want you to do this. This is one way of doing that, but this is what you should be trying to do. This is what your intention from this position has to be. Like that idea.
Yeah.
And I found that having that type of approach to stuff, it's so much easier for us to just learn from other people without them telling us what to do.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it does help a lot more, and I think in a sport like this, there's so much to learn and absorb. You can't yourself know everything, so it's always good to just always put that out there with the option of having someone to say, but what question something that you're doing, and I think everyone, that's the thing with martial artists. I think real martial artists have that open mind. They have that open mindedness to go, do you know what? Let's try it. Let's find out. Because the ones who are closed off, I don't call them martial arts. I call them, I think they're almost like traditional martial arts, where they don't want anyone else to come into their little space, and they believe that what they're doing is that's right and you're wrong. And I think that's the wrong way to be.
I think that there's a lot of people like that, and it's that a lot of people don't want to know they're wrong anyway.
Yeah.
It's like being as like right now. Obviously, I'm fighting and stuff, but I afford to live by coaching, and it's a difficult task to try and run it as a business and be honest. Because a lot of men, especially, cannot deal with your job as a coach is to correct errors.
Yeah.
To show people how they should do stuff. And what I think about a lot is that when I'm teaching and I'm telling men that they're not as good at fighting as what they think, that's not something nice for a lot of people to hear. People don't want to get that feedback. Don't want to hear those words. People want to assume that they already know too much. So it's hard to make a business out of telling people, not tell them off, but telling them they're wrong.
Yeah.
And it's strange.
Ego is a terrible thing. Really, it's a dangerous thing. Unless someone's been humbled, you're not. It's hard to get through some people. When you've been, for example, if you've been training for a while and you get your ass handed to you every time you turn up. You've been humbled a bit, so you'll start to listen and go, well, I can't beat him, so I'm clearly not right in what I'm doing. But you'll get guys with egos. It's a dangerous thing. But what I've noticed with the Northeast is that it's really getting a really talent-rich pool of guys. And yeah, Alex, in the Northeast, it is really starting to get quite a talent-rich pool of fighters. There's of course there's yourself. You got Tommy Quinn. You've got obviously Ross Pearson. You've got James Mulhern, Colin Fletcher. And you got your little protege Adam as well. There's a handful of guys there. Obviously, there is more. I'm just spitting a handful of names out. I don't want to miss anyone out. Not being rude, but there is it's quite exciting times in the northeast for the guys there. Really, the fact that you can all train together and it helps bring everyone's game up, I'd imagine.
Oh, without a doubt, there's it's the way things are up here, especially with a lot of the pros. Most of what we coach on a night time, and we're training together during the day. So we're always bringing new ideas to the table, or helping each other learn. But also spend a lot of time testing new stuff out. Always trying to stay one step ahead of not just everybody else around the world, but even one step ahead of each other. If Fisher's doing something that works, I want to think about the counter or something that I can do around that to stop that happening. Then he has to go and make the work he was doing better, because I can now defend it. So we're constantly pushing each other and making each other better.
It's good as well, because it's not like there's one of yous or two of you. There's, like I said, there is quite a few of you now as well. Rather than being stuck and being, for example, being a big fish in a little pond when there's no one else around you, it can be very difficult for development. So I think next year we're going to see a lot of guys in the northeast, just imploding. You've got, especially when you look at the map in the UK, up in Scotland, I'd say your biggest group is your Dinky Ninjas up in Scotland. Then you got when you go down into the UK, you've got up in your northeast, there's all you boys there. Then you got down to London way, you've got like your Team Titan area and BKK kind of guys. Wales, you've got your Brett Johns and your Lou Long, and obviously in Ireland they've got your SBGs, and obviously you got a team guys. So it's quite nice to see there's like almost each area in the UK is starting to develop a pool of richer fighters.
Yeah, I think Newcastle might be the only city centre that doesn't have one gym which houses a lot of fighters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think up here is very much a collection. That'll happen in time, like I have my gym in South Shields, and I have a lot of novice pros and some amateurs there. Fisher has his in Sunderland. The Bad Boy Gym's in Gateshead. It's close to Newcastle City Centre, and Ryan and Tommy both coach there, so it's quite interesting that I think, not that we're behind anywhere else, I think it's just different. But then at the same time, there's going to be so many of these almost highly stacked gyms. Like what when you said Titan, SBG, they're all big teams.
Yeah. I
think up here we have like a lot of guys who are going to head big teams and run big teams.
Yeah.
Who all train together. That's
the beautiful thing. Yeah, it is unique, and it's quite a beautiful thing, because that's when, like I say, there's no ego. You're not sitting there having a rivalry, spouting off about. You just all sitting there going, "Well, should we train together? Because let's be realistic. It's going to help each other."
Yeah. There's obviously there's very little chance of anyone locally end up having to fight each other. It's even difficult for, say, it'd be so difficult for one of my students to fight one of Fisher's, for example, because of how much work we do together.
Yeah.
Or fight one of Ryan's is very difficult. But there's so many other gyms outside the Northeast which promoters can bring opponents in, or quite often we'll travel to them, that it doesn't cause that problem. It's
no,
it's not like we're trying to help out an event up here by putting our fighters against each other because they'll both sell lots of tickets, which is kind of what MMA is a little bit becoming at times.
Yeah, it is handy, because, like you say, you're not that far off from events up in Scotland, and you're not that far off from events even just as far as Manchester and places like that, or Birmingham to an extent. So you're not going too far out the way to find fights for the guys.
No.
It's quite good as well. I think it's nice that, for example, I was speaking to Jake Boswick as well, with this Phoenix Fight Night. I've noticed that it doesn't really put itself out there when they have quite a few talent-rich fights going on. They have quite stacked cards. Some of the guys they have on the cards for UK shows, it kind of, I don't know what it is. They're just a very quiet promotion, I feel, but they somehow have great matchups.
They have a lot of guys from Bournemouth fighting on the card, and they'll be selling tickets and drawing the crowd in. And then obviously the crowd just enjoy having names like myself, Jake, and our opponents on, which are high-level international fights. But for me, it's a good opportunity just to travel somewhere else, have no stress of selling tickets or having to bring a crowd in. I don't have to be the draw. I'm the draw because of my skill set. I've been brought down there, and it's also nice to hear that.
Yes. It's definitely respect. That's what it is straight away. They're showing their respect to you in doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Plus, I think my management helped us get the fight. They do a really good job and look after us, especially with there being no cage warriors events.
Yeah.
I'm managed by the guys at Intensity, and Ian's been incredible.
Well, with next year, hey, who knows what's going to happen, eh? We got.
Yeah, I just keep winning fights.
Yes, exactly.
It's literally the most important thing in the world for us is results and winning.
Yes, that's all you can do. Yeah, that's all you can do. That's all the thing that is. People can't just sit there and wait for things to come to them. They have to just keep ticking over, so to speak.
Not necessarily just winning, because obviously the easy way to do that would just be to fight bums, but to challenge myself and overcome that adversity, to win, and in a place where the odds are even to slightly in one favour or the other, but they're not stacked in my favour ever.
Yeah,
they haven't been from my last 5-6 fights.
We spoke about this last time when we met. Well, are you still considering maybe going and competing at 155?
It's something that it depends what goes on, but I make featherweight comfortably, but 155 would be comfortable more often.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to make 145 4, 5, 6 times a year, or for tournaments or that type of fight.
Yeah.
But obviously I have to just see what my management want me to do and what happens after this fight. I'd be a small 155. I've realised that the closer I am to weight now, I could make 155 so easy that I could have had cake at the weekend. And I don't know if that's something I'd want to do. I
was going to say that sounds like a good thing. There's no negative there.
If things are too easy, then you haven't really earned them.
Yeah. Maybe you have to just you have to get yourself bigger. Maybe you have to be bigger, then eat more cake when you've not got the fight on.
But then I'd be cutting the same amount of weight and wouldn't want to do it 5-6 times a year.
Yeah.
That would be the same problem.
Okay, but, I'll eat the cake for you. I'll eat the cake for you then.
If I can get the fights, 145 is my division.
Yes.
And the obviously the fights they've been hard to come by this year, and I think that's part of the frustration. And is thinking about moving up that I'd be more likely to get fights at 155. But if promotions will fly in national opposition like Phoenix Fight Night are doing, then I don't need to do that.
Well, that's the thing as well. Yeah, like you say, it's hard to get fights. You're not. The crazy thing is, you're not the only one stuck.
Yeah,
you've seen it with a handful of fighters that they're getting maybe one fight, but they're not getting as many fights as you would think they'd be getting, simply possibly because of the skill set. I'm not being funny. It is quite. If I was a 145er in the UK and you went, we've got a match up, Alex Enlund, I'd be like, I think my nan's going to be dead the day before, so I have to go to a funeral. It's one of them ones. It's not, and again, that is respectful to you, but at the same time, the guys are probably, like we've said before, guys do like to be careful of their records, and they probably sit there and go, I'm not ready yet for Alex Enlund.
I think maybe there's a little bit of that, and a lot of the guys who probably want to fight is there'll be a lot of guys just breaking through who'd see me as a no lose situation where I would just be a scalp.
Yeah.
And they'd want to fight us, but then there has to be an incentive in it. I've never been offered any of those fights, but then there'd have to be an incentive in it for me.
Yeah.
It's difficult, the UK scene, especially with Cage Warriors being out this year. I think people have missed it, and I don't think people appreciate what they actually had until they haven't done any shows this year.
Yes.
And I think when it's back, which I really believe it will be, there's obviously Graham released the little trailer for next year with and I think when it's back, people will realise how good they had it.
Yeah.
And
It's that kind of it's almost like you feel you're comfortable, like you got that safe net in a way when they were signed with Cage Warriors. They won't realise it, but even if they know they're going to get a matchup, if they sign like a 3 or 4 or 5 contract, they're going to get fights then, because the Cage Warriors wouldn't sign them to not give them fights. So all they've got to do is make weight and turn up.
Exactly, and they're getting tests, they're getting the right fights, like fair fights. Yeah, you
got Ian Dean, who just finds the most random guys who probably, and then he just brings them in who are just like that. The best one was Damir Hadzovic. That guy's a monster.
He's like very good lightweight. Dangerous as well. I would expect Cage Warriors return. He'll be the Cage Warriors lightweight champion next year.
Do you know what? I was devastated that they obviously did go, because I wanted to see how he would have fared if he maybe got a chance to fight for that title, you know, when he fought one of the top contenders, like he beat, was it Martin Delaney, wasn't it? I think it was when he stepped in. I think it was Martin Delaney. I
can't remember.
But yeah, it was, you know, he's very impressive. You know, he's a hell of a fighter, and it's a shame because I was like, I really enjoyed watching him, and I think obviously he has been fighting outside of, he's been fighting in Europe, but you know, when you find gems like that, and he brings them in, do you know what? It ups the game for other 155ers in Cage Warriors in the UK, because they go, this guy's got skills, I need to up my shit right now.
Yeah, when I was made my return to featherweight for Cage Warriors, Jimmy Ellis was the champion.
Yeah.
And in my head, that's how good I had to be, to the point where I had no doubts in my mind that I would beat Jimmy Ellis.
Yeah.
And then he got signed by the UFC, and then I fought Nad for the belt. But from the moment I decided to fight, I moved to bantamweight, and I wanted to be the bantamweight champion. And obviously it was vacant. So there was no, like, I didn't put a target on someone of, how good is he? Is he actually better than me? I didn't believe Jimmy Ellis was, but I believed that I had to get better and better and better so I could outclass him. Then obviously he got signed. And then I knew I was the next guy who would be the champion, and I knew I was the top of that pile of Cage Warriors then.
Yeah. It was just a matter of executing it, yeah.
When it returns, I expect to be top of the pile there and show people, you know.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. When obviously Cage Warriors do end up coming back around, it's what are they going to do with, in effect, the titles that have become vacant because people have went on. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do, because
they'll do tournaments. I think they've got a history of tournaments.
I'm thinking that as well, and do you know what? I'm already sitting there and I'm picking out random matchups for guys, and you know, are they going to get Jimmy back and Lou Long? You know, that's a hell of a matchup. Jimmy Wallhead and Lou Long. Yeah. Bloody hell, that's just going to be fucking awesome. I can't even contain my excitement at the idea of that matchup. You know, and
I think the welterweight division in the UK is probably one of the strongest divisions. It has probably the most exciting possible fights in.
Yeah.
Like last week, I watched Tommy, my training partner, fight Matt Inman.
Yeah.
And probably the most technical MMA fight I've seen on a UK promotion.
That's not on yet. That's not online yet, is it? They've not put that. They've not released that yet, have they?
No,
it's doing my head in that. Yeah. You're not the only one who said it as well, and it's driving me fucking insane because I'm waiting for it to get posted.
It was easily the most technical fight I've seen.
Yeah.
Tommy's striking's phenomenal, and Matt had some very good striking, and tactically was superb, and just made such an interesting fight.
That's the thing. It shows how Matt Inman has turned things around, but he's almost screwed the nut in a way with his fight with Lou Long, where it just did not happen for him that day. He came back onto FCC, got a win, and then obviously he got the win against him. But it shows that he's progressing still, and he's still a welterweight he's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think he's like 17-7 now, or 18-7 or something like that. I wouldn't expect him being too far away from being signed, especially with the SBG link and the Sol Rogers doing well on Tough.
Yeah, exactly. You got Sol. Yeah, he's going to be probably fighting this. Thursday? No, Friday, isn't it? The Ultimate Fight finale. Yeah, so he's going to be on that card. And there's a handful of guys.
Well,
it's the fight. I think you find out if he's in the final on
Thursday morning.
Yeah. So obviously you got it's Marcin Voracek against Sol. And then Autumn has got the American lad whose name I won't be rude, but I just can't remember the American lads. So
that's because he's not very good.
Probably, yeah, if I'm honest. But it's so I sit there and think Saul versus Autumn. That's a hell of a scrap. Anyway, that would have been a great.
But it's already happened. Saul beaten by decision.
Yeah, but it's
it's interesting because it's two SPG guys.
Well, I'm interested to see how Marson can come into it, because he's coming in. I know it sounds daft. I know I've said it before, but with Joanna winning the title, I know it sounds silly, but does that give the Polish fighters a little bit more of a confidence boost? You know what I mean? I know they're not training with her, but it's almost like someone's flying the flag, if that makes sense.
I think a little bit. Saul's a natural lightweight and probably a better wrestler than Marson, and I think Saul wins that.
Yeah, because
quite comfortably. I think so. I expected when I seen the cast Saul to win the whole thing.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, you know what? I think he is like you say, on the ground. He's a scary man. That's the thing, because he could be going in the final then against Autumn.
Yeah. I think that would be interesting. But when I seen the whole cast, I picked Saul to win the whole thing.
See, if you went down to bookies, you could have made a few quid from that as well, probably.
I don't think you can bet on the Ultimate Fighter though.
Oh, you must be able to. Some bookie will take it somewhere.
TV, by the time they release it, the cast and stuff, it's on TV. It's a TV show, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you can put money on bloody X Factor, I imagine. So you must be able to. Bloody hell. They'll take money for any crap these days. Yeah, like you say, SPG link. Yeah, so you got to think about little things like that, because you've got Danny Roberts is fighting on. Is it Wednesday? Thursday's card? Is that many cards? It's the Thursday card against Nathan Core,
Ahmed Junis,
Too many bloody cards to remember. And
it's 3 in 3 days. It's mental.
I know it's going to be absolutely rammed. I can't get my head around it. Like, I know that Brian Stan and John Anik are doing a commentary for 2 of the cards, and you think that's a hell of a lot of paperwork they've got to remember. I do not envy that at all. But and then you've got that bloody McGregor Aldo card, which is probably up there with the UFC 100 card.
I think it's better. I think the undercard's better.
Oh, the undercard. Yeah, well, on the undercard, on the one.
Collectively, as a card, the UFC 100 card was great. But that was Frank Mir, Brock Lesnar, right?
Yes.
That was nothing for me at all.
I've just look at Brock just being a monster.
Thiago Alves, as much as at the time it was a big fight, it wasn't that big. When you think this card has Weidman Rockhold is a huge fight. You know, I'm disregarding the Belfort spinning heel kick knockout of Rockhold, because I think that's not. I don't even count that on Rockhold's kind of record. I think every TRT win that he had, I don't count. But that fight, I think the Aldo McGregor fight will bring in casual fans, so people who've maybe never even seen the UFC before.
Yeah, same with Ramsey. Rousey.
Make people UFC fans.
Yeah.
But I think the Weidman Rockhold fight will make people MMA fans.
Yeah, definitely. I can't.
Because I think it's technically 2 of the most evenly matched fighters.
Yeah.
In the UFC, almost. And then another fight that's similar to that, it's Damian Maia, Gunnar Nelson.
I was going to mention that fight as well. How amazing is that fight going to be?
It's almost like, to some extent, a mirror match.
Yeah.
Stylistically.
Yes.
But of youth versus age almost.
Well, you got to think. Yeah. You look at Gunnar Nelson's fight against Thatch. I said it myself. I went, "Oh, Thatch is deadly on the ground, but if Gunnar gets him down, then it's Gunner's got it all day." And then he drops Thatch, and I kind of went, right. Now he's definitely been working on that. And then you think, well, not many people mess Damian Maia up, because Damian Maia is such a very clever guy on the feet, because he's not ever going to be the best striker, but he's smart at not taking much damage and just grabbing you and getting you to the ground. And you think to yourself, Gunnar Nelson won't mind going to the ground. That's the crazy thing about it. And you just sit there and there's so much in that fight. But then you've also got to think, you've got Jacare against Yoel Romero.
The whole card's ridiculous.
It is. I'm literally, when I heard obviously everyone's sitting there hoping no fights get called off, but then you got Max Holloway against Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy
And
Stephens.
then the day before, Edgar versus
Mendes. Oh my word! Isn't that just a sexy fight?
Yeah.
Oh, and then,
so much MMA to watch.
I know. I'm literally going to have no social life for the next 3 or 4 days. Catching up and watching the fights again. That's just. I'm writing off my life for the next 5 days.
I never watch UFC until the whole event goes back on Fight Pass. So I normally watch stuff like a month later.
Do you?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I watch it just on UFC Fight. I'm not saying that if I don't watch it live, I won't go into MMAcore.com and watch it. But just I might do that.
I'll do that for 1 or 2 fights.
Yes.
But obviously, if I want to see stuff, normally if I'm watching MMA, it's because I like one of the fighters.
Yeah.
Or I want to study it, and if I'm studying it, don't want to watch it on a bad streamed website.
Yeah.
If I'm studying it, I like to do it. Do it a month later is no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same with a handful of matches when I see, like, for example, a fight that I'm looking forward to is Josh Barnett against Ben Rothwell.
Oh, see, I've got no love for heavyweights at all.
Just because they can eat cake and don't have to cut weight.
Nah, just because they're like the slow and the sluggish, and they can get away with bad technique.
I like Josh Barnett because he's got pretty good technique on that ground.
He is pretty good.
Yeah, I love that catch wrestling. Love it.
He's really good, right? But is he really good, or is he really good for a heavyweight?
I don't know. I'd have to see him if he ever cut down to 205 to see how he could fare. But
but skill set wise,
he's pretty good. You know, he's probably got the best.
Technically as good as a top 10 155er.
No, but you're never going to get that with a heavyweight.
No, so he's really good for a heavyweight.
Yeah,
that's like.
Well, I've always said that.
With the amount of fights the UFC and that is available in MMA now.
Yeah.
For me, unless I know them, I'm not watching it too often. Or unless someone says it's a ridiculously good fight, I'm not watching a heavyweight fight.
But then again, I love 125ers.
Yeah.
You know, I can't get enough of the 125 division in the UFC. You know, even if
Demetrius Johnson's probably my favourite guy to watch in the UFC.
You cannot get a better technical fighter than that guy. He is another level. He is so good to watch.
Again, technically, he's quite clever as well.
Yes, hardly takes any damage.
I enjoyed listening to the Joe Rogan podcast with him on.
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, it was really good, wasn't it? Yeah, I really liked it. You know,
I don't understand why more people don't like him.
Mate, he's
like the nicest man in the world.
I know. He takes the piss out of himself as well a bit, and he's awesome. But the problem is, it's people who don't understand fighting. They just don't like the small guys. I think it stems from boxing. Boxing, what was the biggest draw? Heavyweight division.
Yeah.
You know, because everyone knew statistically you're probably going to get a finish at some point in the fight, and I think that mentality's kind of went on into MMA, where you look at the very first few MMAs, they didn't have small guys, they just had giants beating the crap out of each other. And the same with Pride. You know, it wasn't. You know, Pride was just like, right, let's get this. Right, you a giant, we'll have a giant. Are you a dwarf? All right, we'll have you. Let's go. And people would watch that stuff, but I think you need like another 10 years, and another 10 years, people will probably appreciate Demetrius Johnson a lot more than they would do now. Because hopefully people are more educated in 10 years' time, understanding that, you know what, 125ers, they are probably the best division possibly to watch because of the speed and how technical they have to be. Because you've got to think how quick they can throw stuff and move. Their mind just reacts so much different than ours. Even at your weight class, you know, even though it's only 20 pounds, it's a different ball game.
Yeah, I think the thing about the flyweights is, but then again, actually, if you watch some of them, you watch like Benavidez or Lineker when he was fighting a flyweight, they were just sluggers. Ian McCall, bit of a slugger.
Well, you see, I thought that, but then you watched him against Brad Pickett in Ireland, and it was a different Ian McCall. He was very technical in the fact that he was coming in, a quick combination, then he was cutting off on an angle to get away from basically Pickett and basically throwing those heavy hands. And that was a different Ian McCall you saw in that fight, and I thought it was a beautiful Ian McCall. And the same with the John Lineker fight, he was beautiful in that fight until he got caught.
He's a scrapper though, John. Like he puts on in a fight.
Yeah.
Where Demetrius Johnson, you can understand people because he's a tactician.
Yes.
But like Dodson's just a knockout merchant.
Oof. Him at 135, he's still going to be scary in that division.
Yeah.
Not having a cut.
But like, I don't get why people don't like them. And then you have heavyweights, if they haven't knocked each other out in the first round, it's gone the distance.
Yeah, you're right. They just haven't got the power. They're just so tired. Like the best one was when you watch like Saul Paleli, and you knew he could finish guys in the first, but if it went after the first, he would just start to it was like he was stuck in tar.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, fuck me, this is going to be a long 15 minutes. If I'm the commentator, you better have a lot of stuff there to talk about.
Yeah.
I think the worst fight I saw was a heavyweight fight this year. The worst fight this year was it was Pester versus Chronikins and that. I can't remember the surname of it now. And it was probably the worst fight I've ever seen, ever. And it was just two heavyweights, it was just a bit abysmal. Like you said, they blew their load after a few minutes, and then after that, you just were pulling teeth out. And I was like, that's on the UFC.
I couldn't deal with watching it. I'd just turn it off. That's why I don't watch stuff live.
Yeah, so you can can skip.
I can't remember the last time I stayed up to watch a UFC.
Well, see what we would do. Me and Mike, we'd have it recorded, then watch it the next night. But we try to avoid the results so that we can so you still get that bit of element of surprise when you watch it. So you get caught out. We get caught out of a fight like that because you don't know the result, and you're sitting there and you're like, and you get to like the last minute, you go, it's gone decision, isn't it? Bollocks. Yeah. It sucks.
There's a lot of fights where I like this, know the result, and then if I find out it's a good, normally I'll wait till my students tell us it's a good fight.
Yeah.
Someone will come in and be like, "Do you see such and such?" I'll be like, "No," and then I'll watch it, and if it's good, I'll be. But even with fights that are good, like the Mark Hunt and
Bigfoot Silver.
Yeah, like did nothing for me.
No, the first one, not the second one, obviously.
The one that was a brawl.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah,
I watched it and I ended up turning it off. But then you get Aldo Mendez, which was a bit of a brawl.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it because it was a tad more technical. Like I like Mark Hunt, but I'd rather watch a Mark Hunt highlight video than I would watch Mark Hunt fight.
Did you watch his last fight against Bigfoot Silver?
No.
Mark Hunt is in shape. I know it sounds weird. Like he used to be a shape round, but he is in shape now. He's took his shit seriously. He finally decided to take it serious after about 41 years. But the dude is in awesome condition.
Right?
Yeah, serious. Even just Google a picture of him when he was like, honestly, and when you think about what he used to look like, when you see him now, it's quite a difference. And do you know what? He's probably going to get even better in the next fight he comes up with. But like he looked so good, and you think that dude has tree trunks for legs. When he leg kicks, it just ruins your day.
Yeah. I wouldn't like get hit as much as I don't like watching heavyweights. I wouldn't want to get hit off one.
Fuck that! Like training with James Mulhern, I would be running. I'd say my footwork would be on point.
Yeah, James is fast for a heavyweight.
Yeah. Oh no! Right then.
like he's lightning, actually.
Yeah. Oh, he's got like that kind of explosive, that fat twitch muscle fiber kind of explosive power.
Yeah, he's very, very light on his feet, actually.
That's the thing. Some heavyweights can catch you out with athleticism, can't it?
He's different. He's certainly different.
You know, and again, it's nice to get, especially he's back from his injury. It's great that he's, got back to winning ways as well. It's nice to see that because sometimes an injury like that can affect someone like long term. It's big.
Yeah, it was good to see him get the win. He was quite happy and stuff, and then it'd be interesting to see what he does next year.
Well, that's the thing, exactly. I was thinking that as well, because you've got a handful of guys now in the heavyweight division in the UK where it did seem at one point where you were thinking, where's the next heavyweight star coming from? And then you've got a handful of guys now that you can start to maybe look at matching up. So it's quite fun to see now.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's quite a few in the northeast actually who are doing well.
Yeah, there was another guy in the made for cage card as well, wasn't there? Lower down as well. I can't remember.
Tony Mustard. Trains with Fisher.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I couldn't remember the name because again, I just couldn't. Remember like a secret.
Like that was the first fight where he fought a named opponent, someone who people like had a reputation and like a really good record. Yeah. And he beat Paul Taylor.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Paul Taylor.
Paul Taylor just fought for the BAMMA title not long ago.
He did indeed, exactly against Mark Godby. Yeah,
that was like a huge win for Tony.
I think so as well because he trained at AK. He trained up at AKA as well. Yeah.
I remember seeing he posted something like that on his Facebook
Yeah,
account. I remember
and he can take one hell of a hit as well. Dude can take.
I've only ever seen him fight Tony, and then when he fought James Mulheron.
Oh yeah. He could take a hit like Paul did, and you know what? He's actually got surprisingly really good hands.
Yeah, I imagine most heavyweights seem to box and take down defense.
Yeah, especially I wouldn't like them sprawled on me. Fuck that.
Yeah.
No chance. I'd look like a pancake at the end of it.
I wouldn't fancy being a heavyweight at all. It just looks like it hurts so much more. It's not worth the kick.
Yeah, exactly. You got to think. Imagine you fight down at 145. Imagine just putting another £100 onto that one. Oh, yeah.
No.
Just honking in it. It's just horrible. Just the idea of it.
Add a small human to us.
Exactly. That's just not worth thinking about, really. Especially like you think even a leg kick.
And it's just like tissue as well, because it's not even extra skeleton, so it's just all the muscle and all the stuff that hit hard.
Oh god, yeah. Just a leg kick alone from a heavyweight, I think your thigh would just. I remember seeing that. You see that video of Pedro Izzo when he hit the guy with the leg kick. Some reporter said, "Oh, do a leg kick on us," and he held the pad obviously on his leg. Pedro Izzo just cracked this leg kick on the guy, and the guy just flipped in the air.
Just spin him around.
Yes.
Yeah.
How you just that's why you don't want to get kicked by a heavyweight. Obviously Pedro's got a little beautiful technique to it, but at the same time, any heavyweight hits you, it's still going to be there's still going to be a lot of weight hitting you, even if they don't do the technique right. It's still 250 pounds potentially cracking your leg, so it's going to suck. Oh man, no, it's not my cup of tea. Alex, look, we'll wrap this up because I'll let you go because I forgot I've actually got an interview. Well, I was meant to do an interview about 20 minutes ago with someone else, but it's all good. They can wait. Hey, when I'm flowing, I'm having a good conversation. I like to keep it going, mate. I like talking with you, Alex. You're a good person to talk with. You know your shit, and that's what counts.
I think I wouldn't mind trying, if you want to have us back on when I'm eating more sugary foods.
When you're human, you mean? Yeah.
And I'm super enthusiastic. And I'm okay right now, but it's 9:20 at night now, and I couldn't jack myself up on coffee before.
Look, I tell you what I'll do, Alex. Then I tell you what, me and Mike have been negotiating about we're going to do a festive podcast, and we are going to get a handful of guys on, and I'll tell you some of the names off air beforehand, just in case they don't come on in the end because of shit. But yeah, before I let you go, Alex, let people know what your social network stuff is, so they can jump on and give you a follow.
So my Twitter account is @Alex Enlund, nice and simple. Enlund, ENLUND. I have a Facebook page, Alex Enlund, and Instagram, Alex Enlund VI. And you can catch us on there. Also, anyone after training in the Northeast, I teach at South Shields. Put together a good, strong team at Powerhouse Gym. Anyone who wants to come up from the Northeast to the Northeast to train, if anyone wants to visit or drop by or from a different gym, you send us a message. I'll sort out classes so you don't have to pay no fees and stuff, just as one-off training, or if you want to come up for a week. And that's about it.
I was going to say, people I've seen the facility as well. It looks spot on. Loads of equipment there for what you need in this sport, and there's obviously lots of mat space, which is important for rolling and sparring in and stuff. It looks dead on, mate, honestly. And what about obviously sponsors for this fight coming up?
Oh, I've got about 1 million.
Okay, just name one. Name the most important one.
Obviously, I have guys who help us out. One of the Fight Store Pro and Rev Gear give us a lot of equipment and help us out quite a bit. Alex is really cool. Excess Mouth Guards just sorted us out with a new gum shield with my name on it. And also my biggest appreciation goes to obviously Eddie and Kelly for bringing us over to Singapore for those 2 weeks. I wouldn't have been able to afford to go, and they covered my flights and stuff for the second time. And that was a huge help, and obviously I got to train with high-level guys, and I can never... It's something that maybe I'll never be able to repay, but I'll try and pay forward. And then I have other sponsors like Right Side Apparel, my local barber sponsor, Stoney's been my longest running sponsor. He always helps us out and still only charges old age pensioner prices for my haircut. There's not much to cut though, so it's falling out quite quick, and it's not like he has to style it or blow dry it. And there's a few more. A lot of them are just local around town sponsors who are helping us out, just out of the goodness of the heart, which it's those guys who I appreciate most, and they know. I don't think they're doing, a lot of them aren't doing it for thanks on podcasts or space on banners or space on t-shirts. They're doing it just because they want to see us do well.
Yeah.
And that, again, is just something I'm going to maybe never pay back, but I'll just pay forward.
But that's the thing. When you win, that's how you've paid it back. I think that when the success in your career is that's their repayment. You know, and I think that's what all they want. You know, they don't need anything else other than just you. You know, chasing your passion. You know, all it takes is one person to support someone in their passion, and they can thrive, and it just goes on from there. Obviously, you want to thank obviously your teammates, coaches, training partners, and obviously people like that.
I have some outstanding training partners. I've had quite a bit of pads off. Stu Bailey's helped us a lot, especially the last few weeks. All the guys at NEVT are really cool. You know, like this Paul Cook was he fought on the Saturday for 3 rounds against David Johnson, and came and trained and wrestled with us on the Monday. Andrew Fisher's helped us so much for this fight, despite having his own things going on. And Colin was in the week after his fight to help us out. Ryan Roddy's been a huge help, and he spent a lot of time watching Diaz, giving us feedback and giving us stuff to work at specific for the fight, and some tactical stuff, which I think plays a big part. But the whole Northeast scene is so cool, and obviously I wouldn't be who I am without them. And all my students, it's extensive being patient when I'm grumpy, or when I'm telling them as it is or how I see it, and just putting up with my stubbornness and no, that's wrong. Come on, let's get it right. All my occasional, I just demonstrated. Did you watch? Or did you listen? Because I've had enough. I haven't had much to eat, or I'm tired from training, or I've been beaten up. Well, I appreciate all that. I appreciate everyone on this journey with us. And I appreciate Phoenix Fight Night for putting the fight on. I appreciate Rafael for coming all the way over from Florida to fight us. And it's going to be cool.
I tell you what, it's a bit of a difference, Bournemouth to Florida, but I'm
used to the cold.
Yeah, he's going to say he's going to get a shock. But hey, I tell you what, Alex, like you say, mate, it's great the support you're getting, and the people around you. You know what? I'm going to be keeping a close eye on the results. And look, have a great weekend. It's going to be just absolutely awesome, Alex.
Thank you very much, John. Cheers.